This engagement is about Total making commitments.
Total Energies commit to more investments in Nigeria.
The money that you're supposed to remit it, if you remit it, the receipt must be attached.
Senate begins collation of budget defense reports, reiterates commitment to fast-track proceedings.
By the grace and mercies of God, we will transform our society.
Keep faith with Nigeria, Vice President Osinbajo urges Christian leaders. And police parades 14 over invasion of justice Odili's Abuja residents. Good evening, this is NTA Network News. I'm Cyril Stober in Abuja. Hingino John Adams is in Lagos. Welcome. The coming into effect of the Petroleum Industry Act has started paying off for Nigeria with a renewed commitment by Total Energies to invest more in the oil and gas sector of the nation's economy. President Muhammadu Buhari extracted this commitment in Paris, France, when the chief executive officer of the multinational oil company, Patrick Pouyan, paid him a courtesy visit. State House correspondent Adam Musambu reports that the president of the Islamic Development Bank also came calling.
Although the implementation process of the Petroleum Industry Act has just started, the impact of the new law is already being felt in the nation's oil and gas sector. For Total Energies, a multinational oil company, President Muhammadu Buhari's visit to France provided an opportunity to not only reconnect but reaffirm its commitment to the nation's economic growth and development. During the engagement, lasting about 40 minutes, the chief executive officer of the company, Patrick Pouyan, commended the president for his courage and commitment towards achieving a competitive and resilient oil and gas sector in Nigeria. He said with the various obstacles and uncertainties in the critical economic sector now giving way, Total's presence in Nigeria's economy will be enhanced, as explained by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silva.
This engagement is about Total making commitments to their presence in Nigeria. They are going to make additional investment because of the PIA, and Mr. President has also given them his support. For us, that is actually the initial gain we expected, because if your investors, those who are already in the country, are not satisfied, then you have problems. But at least they have signaled to the rest of the world that Nigeria has now become a very attractive investment environment. So we're expecting others to also come in. But at least initially, those who are with us have indicated their confidence in the new legislative environment, and we are quite happy about it.
Total is one of our most reliable partners in the country. They have been the major supplier of gas to the LNG plant, and also from them we have most of the commitments that we see going forward. So we're very happy that they made this commitment to Mr. President, and we also are sure now that the PIA is paying off. The fiscal environment is being appreciated by all and sundry in the industry, particularly our major partners. And this is where we're going. And of course, they are also going to engage us in the transition process where we can move into the renewables and other sources of energy. It is a very good meeting.
The Nigerian leader also granted audience to the president of the Islamic Development Bank, Dr. Muhammad Suleiman Al-Jasser, explaining why his administration is committed to an infrastructure renaissance for Nigeria. The country, he explained, is struggling hard on infrastructure, as there can be no sustainable development without it, especially roads, rail, power, airports, and housing, which the government is committed to providing in the past 6 years. President Buhari thanked the IDB for his help so far, saying, however, that greater cooperation and support are still needed from the bank, which its president, Dr. Muhammad Suleiman Al-Jasser, promised to consider.
I was honored to have the opportunity to meet with His Excellency the President, a very well-known figure on the international stage. I told him Nigeria is a very important country and member of the Islamic Development Bank, and I was very happy and proud to see the level of activity that we have in terms of projects that are ongoing, some projects that have already been completed, and projects that are on the drawing board for Nigeria. I have noticed how His Excellency is very much focused on infrastructure, which is very understandable from a leader of his stature. So I congratulated him on the priorities that he has set for Nigeria, and we look forward to deepening the relationship with Nigeria and to provide any help we can from the Islamic Development Bank.
Dr. Mohammed Suleiman Al-Jasser assumed duty as president of the Islamic Development Bank in July this year. From Paris, France, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
In the meantime, business concerns and prospective investors from France have been assured of the federal government of Nigeria's capacity to guarantee their safety and investments. National Security Advisor Major General Babagana Monguno and other panelists made the submissions at the Nigeria International Partnership Forum in Paris, France. Anthony Forson has the details.
Combating persistent and emerging threats to national security and regional stability, the lead presenter and National Security Advisor, General Babagana Monguno, described the situation as a threat to the whole African continent.
Nigeria recently established a National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons, domiciled in the Office of the National Security Advisor, to serve as the institutional framework as well as complement other efforts. In addition, the Central Bank of Nigeria, in collaboration with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, and the Interpol, as well as other international agencies, have been quite effective, in fact I would say very effective, in monitoring and trafficking illicit financial flows.
He said technology, though very strategic to modernization, the NSA frowned at its negative usage.
The cyberspace has become a medium for perpetrating various dimensions of cyber threats globally. The major areas of cyber threats with significant capability to cause damage to our security and economy include cybercrime, cyber espionage, and cyber terrorism.
But for Nigeria, its citizens are revered all over the world as their ingenuity makes them stand out, using the Ebola outbreak and the ability to contain COVID-19 pandemic as a yardstick. Key into the NSA's position on cybercrimes, Ambassador Babagana Kingibe fingered politics, diversity imbalance, and vicious extremism.
We do occasionally fight wars, yes, but increasingly we are on the front line of greater international tensions against violent extremists and criminal groups that are a threat to civilized values, to peace, and to stability, not only in Africa, in Nigeria as well.
It is therefore necessary for us that all the plethora of security threats, emerging, persistent, real, existential, we have to work together to make Africa peaceful.
Other panelists made a strong case for Nigeria on the global stage, given its commitment. In Paris, France, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
A call has gone to governments in Africa to come up with practical and actionable recommendations to enhance the political, economic and social conditions of the people. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who made the call at the 51st Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Africa Region, says Africans must start to harness the opportunity provided by the post-COVID-19 economy to better the lives of the citizens. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports.
The Vice President, who represents President Muhammadu Buhari at the conference, says there is no doubt that every country is badly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, but notes that while other developed countries are able to garner support in form of aids enough to cushion the effect, the reverse is the case for Africa.
Virtually all African countries have had cases, with over 6 million people affected and well over 150,000 deaths. But there is certainly a need for more holistic solutions that recognize the mounting fiscal pressures of African countries, especially in the aftermath of the pandemic.
The African nations, the Vice President explains, contribute little to the cause of climate change, but bearing the greatest burden of the effects. The Vice President urges African parliamentarians and governments to rise to the occasion by making effective use of the situation.
Parliaments are the locus of democracy. The price of liberty, once someone said, is vigilance. But I must say it's not just vigilance, but action. We must, for example, condemn adventurers who truncate democratic institutions by coups d'etat, as we have seen in parts of the continent in recent times. We should not only condemn such acts forcefully, but also act decisively to nip this undesirable trend in the bud by mobilizing our countries, regional organizations, and the international community to implement sanctions where the need arises. Of course, for such efforts to be credible, it also behoves African leaders, including all of us, to promote good governance, transparency, and accountability, which are the institutional underpinnings of democracy.
Let us agree to use the instruments of trade and common markets to set us irreversibly on the path of a future of honorable peace, abiding prosperity, and brotherhood amongst the nations of Africa.
In Abuja, Jude Onifade, NTA News.
And Vice President Yemi Osinbajo wants Nigerian Christians to keep the faith with the country and play their part in helping the nation pull through these trying times. The Vice President gave the admonition while addressing the annual Divine Commonwealth Conference of the Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion in Abuja. Victor Azu reports.
For 4 days, both clergy and laity of the Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion from different parts of the country converged on Abuja to intercede for the church and the nation. As the conference closes, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who is the special guest, tells the congregation that Nigeria is heading for a glorious future, but the input of all Nigerians is required to make it happen. He urges them to keep faith with the nation and be guided by the scriptures in all their endeavors.
This gospel has the power to transform lives and nations, and we are commanded in propagating it to fight the good fight. Every generation of believers has the capacity to transform their society. By the grace and mercies of God, we will transform our societies too.
The primate of all Nigeria Anglican Communion, Most Reverend Henry Ndokuba, leads the prayers for the church and the nation. This is the 11th edition of the Anglican Prayer Conference. In Abuja, Victor Azu, NTA News.
The Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, has been speaking on the activities of the ministry and the agencies under his control aimed at curbing crime and criminality in the country. This was when the minister featured at the 23rd edition of the State House press briefing by the executive, organized by the presidential media team. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports.
Focus of Minister Rauf Aregbesola's presentation is on programs, reforms and initiatives of the ministry. Specifically, the minister emphasizes on the achievements on internal security and public safety, correctional services, anti-migration management, and border protection.
And prevent non-Nigerians from obtaining our passport.
First, Rauf Aregbesola says it is important that Nigeria gets its processes of passport acquisition right. And through the deployment of technology, the Nigerian Immigration Service is now well equipped for a seamless service to Nigerians wherever they reside.
The Nigerian passport booklet is one of the most secured in the world, with security features that make it tamper-proof. As a ministry, we are committed to enhancing the application process to a similar status in our effort to promote and maintain citizenship integrity.
He says more front offices will be opened and that officials are being trained and monitored to comply with the regulations and focus of the agency.
The NIS to prevent undesirable persons from entering Nigeria. Presently, all international airports are connected to Interpol I-247 through the MIDAS system.
On correctional services, Aregbesola says there is increased training for inmates, with many of them now pursuing various degrees in tertiary institutions, while others are receiving vocational trainings. On attacks on correctional facilities, he says the ministry is working in conjunction with the security agencies and other measures are being worked out to track down every fleeing inmate.
Nigerian security and civil defense. The core special forces personnel are currently deployed along with other security agencies in various joint operations.
The Federal Fire Service, as he says, is now well equipped with modern firefighting equipment, stressing that more facilities have been provided in every state. The Minister of Interior explains that the ministry has introduced quarterly performance review meetings for the ministry and its agencies and solicit the support of Nigerians for its numerous reforms aimed at serving the people better. In the State House, Jide Onifade, NT News.
And we pause for some messages. The news continues shortly. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. News from the legislature now. Standing committees of the Senate that scrutinize the 2022 budgets of the various ministries, departments and agencies of government have commenced submission of their reports to the Senate Committee on Appropriations. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Unko reports that the Appropriations Committee reiterated its resolve to complete the collation in record time.
With the 2022 budget scrutiny almost over, the Senate Committee on Appropriations has begun to receive reports from various standing committees for collation. The Appropriations Committee, after receiving the report of the Senate Committee on Procurement, acknowledged the level of 2021 budget implementation.
And this year, the Ministry of Finance is doing very well. Very, very extremely. It has been unprecedented. So we are going to pass the budget as planned.
Meanwhile, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the National Inland Waterways Authority, George Mogalu, says the agency is working to ensure its full financial autonomy in 2023. He stated this at the 2022 Budget Defense Session before the National Assembly Joint Committee on Marine Transport and Waterways.
The authority is determined more than ever to become fully self-funding by 2023, predicated upon the passage of the newer bill which is before the National Assembly and the so doing of scaling development of inland water transportation in Nigeria.
There is no way government will have a hold on an MDA that's fully autonomous.
We shouldn't encourage an agency to exit without publishing what you are generating.
We want to encourage as many government agencies as possible to exit. Okay, so exit. So that at the end of the day, the burden of funding on the government will be reduced drastically.
The committee thereafter suspended the session and requested the management to provide a more detailed information on its 2021 expenditure.
The money that you're supposed to remit it, if you remit it, the receipt must be attached.
So I think in view of the various inconsistencies observed in your budget, you have to make a fresh submission for our consideration. Thank you.
The agency is projected to generate 21.2 billion naira in 2022. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development says efforts by the legislature to give legal backing to federal government's social investment programs will ensure sustenance. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali was at the public hearing to fine-tune the bills.
This exercise, organized by the House Committee on Poverty Alleviation and Committee on Labor and Employment, is to obtain stakeholders' opinion on two bills: a bill to establish the National Social Investment Program Coordinating Office and a bill to establish the National Social Investment Trust Fund. The idea is to institutionalize social investment concept in Nigeria by way of legal framework to enhance poverty reduction strategies.
In the recent past, we have never had a president, whether elected by democratic process or by whatever way he came to power, we have never had a president like President Muhammadu Buhari, who had actually come up with a lot of things that are directly intended to bear positively on the lives and the livelihood of our Nigerian people.
Government has been able to engage unemployed youth and also engender empowerment package to small businesses.
There is therefore the need to consolidate and sustain the successes recorded, and so the dire need to have a legal framework.
The bills captured the 4 cluster programs of NPower, school feeding, conditional cash transfer, and enterprise empowerment program. In another development, the Director General of the National Council for Arts and Culture told the Oversight Committee during Budget Defense that it has, under its capital budget for 2021, received 728 million naira.
After your visit to our permanent site by Sheraton, that land is worth 9.8 billion naira. This committee is responsible for making us to get that land back.
The House Committee on Disability also met with the management of National Commission for Persons with Disability to analyze the Commission's 2.5 billion naira proposal for 2022.
There is an increment of about 666 million naira over the capital expenditure for the year 2021.
We are advocating the domestication of the rights and welfare of persons with disability.
The committee says it will soon commence monitoring of ministries, departments and agencies of government to ensure compliance with the Disability Act. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
In view of the recent attack on the Kaduna-Abuja train service, a Nigerian Air Force helicopter has commenced regular patrol of the railway tracks to safeguard travel on the route. Acting Director Defense Media Operations announced this at the Defense Headquarters in Abuja. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa has the details.
Top on the periodic update of armed forces operations that span between 29 October to 11 November 2021 include measures adopted by the Defense Headquarters to secure the Abuja-Kaduna train service and the mass surrender of terrorists in the northeast.
The NAV helicopters are currently on patrol at Abuja-Kaduna railway lines to protect the passengers and the rail tracks.
Details of operations within the period under review indicate that more than 1,000 terrorists have surrendered, 71 were eliminated, while 139 kidnapped victims were rescued by troops in different parts of the country.
Troops discovered and immobilized a total of 20 illegal oil refining sites, 62 ovens, 19 reservoirs. Furthermore, 8 criminal elements, including 2 impostors, were arrested.
Similarly, several criminal camps were destroyed by both ground troops and Air Force fighter jets operating in different operations across the country. From the Defense Headquarters in Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
And Nigeria's journey to sustainable peace and development depends largely on the role of the media. This was the submission of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations Abuja chapter at its annual general meeting held in Abuja. Bosade Abel reports.
Harnessing diversity for nation building was at the center of discourse as some of the best brains in the Pen fraternity gathered in Abuja for a common goal. Issues of insecurity, religious intolerance and tribal conflicts were the preoccupations of the participants at the annual general meeting. The belief is that the media and Nigerians should play a major role in fostering unity.
Each of our component parts have something unique to contribute.
We want to live together because that's how we become better human beings.
With more than 521 languages and an estimated 1,150 dialects and ethnic nationalities in Nigeria, members of the panel observed that telling the Nigerian story and projecting its diversity can be achieved through the Nigerian perspective.
We need to put our hands on deck and ensure the peace, unity of this country.
Television, radio, broadcasting, and the newspapers are very powerful for promoting who we are as a beautiful nation.
Whatever we do, we think Nigeria first.
With NIPR, you are very safe because we never go the path of fake news.
The Nigerian Institute of Public Relations is working on a summit on national integration, peace and security as a wake-up to Nigerians on the need to promote peaceful coexistence. In Abuja, Boss Ebo, NT News.
14 suspects linked with the invasion of Justice Mary Odili's residence have been paraded by the Nigeria Police Force in Abuja. Francis Form reports that the suspects were arrested by the Force Intelligence Bureau.
The security men who are on guard in the premises of Justice Mary Odili deserve a lot of commendation.
The eagle eyes of police personnel at the residence of Justice Odili led to the arrest of these 14 suspects, while 7 others are still at large.
They took their time to scrutinize the documents and discovered the disparity, and they provided stiff resistance to these illegal invaders.
But this suspect, who claimed to be a serving chief superintendent of the police, led the team to house number 7, residence of Justice Odili, as against number 9, that a warrant was earlier secured on.
Apart from the ID card that was recovered from him, the one bearing CSP Lawrence Ajodo, we also recovered another ID card from him bearing ASP Ojo, claiming that he works for EFCC.
The police force has vowed to apprehend the 7 other suspects, including 2 soldiers and 1 immigration personnel, still at large. Frank Sesfom, NTA News.
Governor Muhammadu Inuwa Yahaya of Gombe State has presented a budget proposal of more than 154.5 billion naira to the State House of Assembly for the 2022 fiscal year. Correspondent Emmanuel Akila reports that the budget is designed to ensure completion of ongoing projects.
The 2022 appropriation bill tagged Budget of Consolidation will, according to Governor Inuwa Yahaya, enable his administration complete projects with direct bearing on the lives of the people.
Our focus for the 2022 budget will include efforts towards increasing the state gross domestic product, GDP, per capita, high-quality healthcare system, including food and nutrition security.
The budget will receive diligent and expeditious legislative scrutiny and passage.
The budget has 85.4 billion naira capital expenditure and 69.1 billion naira recurrent expenditure. This indicates a priority on capital projects.
The question is this the yearnings and aspirations of the people in terms of development being witnessed in the state?
We are in support of his idea because of continuity, to maintain the project and to improve the existing ones.
The capital projects targeted for completion as captured in the 2022 appropriation bill include, among others, the legacy schools, 1 specialist hospital in each of the 3 senatorial zones, network 1100 roads, and investment in micro, small and medium enterprises to keep the state in our current status as the #1 in the provision of suitable environment for businesses to thrive in Nigeria. In Gombe, Emmanuel Akila, NTA News.
The Southeast Governors Forum has congratulated Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo on his victory at the just concluded Anambra governorship election. The forum advised the governor-elect to extend the hands of friendship to all the candidates that contested the election so as to contribute to the progress of the state from where Governor Willie Obiano stopped. For provision of a level playing ground, the forum also commended President Muhammadu Buhari, the Independent National Electoral Commission, and the security agencies for supporting the people of Anambra to decide. Now let's link up with Hingino in our Lagos Center with a set of reports from that zone. Hingino.
Thank you, Cyril.
Capacity building for the Nigeria Police has been described as an essential tool for broadening and sharpening skills of officers for improved performance on their duties, which will in turn improve service delivery. This is why the police, in conjunction with Wealth Springs, embarked on a series of training on effective communication and emotional intelligence for senior police officers in Lagos.
The corporate image of the Nigeria Police Force has been under severe attacks in recent times. This is due to the fact that the relationship of the police force with the public is rated poor. Training for senior officers, therefore, is to equip them with effective communication skills and application of emotional intelligence in handling cases for better service delivery.
We want to imbibe in them the good sense of empathy, understanding, putting yourself in the shoes of the average Nigerian that have come to report a genuine case to you, so that you can understand where he or she is coming from.
It requires you interfacing with those that you are policing so that you understand each other. In this regard, you cannot police well if you cannot communicate effectively.
The Lagos State Commissioner of Police, Akim Odumosu, enjoined participants to take advantage of the training to improve the image of the police. Training emphasized on empathy and handling interpersonal relationship, non-verbal communication skills, and confidence in communications, amongst other topics.
Understanding of emotional intelligence allows the police to actually do their work of maintaining law and order in a way that considers the emotions of the persons they are dealing with and also their own emotion.
We definitely affect our job positively, and we pass the information down the ladder to our subordinates.
I've gained more confidence in carrying out my duties as a police officer.
It is expected that at the end of the training, personnel of the Nigeria Police will be better positioned for robust police civil relations. In Lagos, Kende Adebisi, NTA News.
Now to the judiciary. The trial of 21-year-old Chidinma Ojukwu over the alleged killing of late Alex Usifo has commenced at the High Court sitting in Tafawa Balewa Square, Lagos. Amaka Owo reports that the trial was presided over by Justice Yetunde Adesanya. Also,
was the suspect Chidinma Ojukwu alongside her sister Chioma Ebuchi and Adedapo Quadri. The first prosecution witness, one Nkechi Mobo and the owner of the short-let apartment where the body of the late Michael Usifo Ataga was found, told the court that she communicated with the suspect through WhatsApp messages. She said the suspect made an initial deposit of 125,000 naira with evidence of payment from one Michael Usifo. She said on June 15th at about 5:30 p.m., the lady sent a message through WhatsApp extending the stay of her friend to 2 days. She further said on June the 16th, the lady had made additional payment of 50,000 naira using same account details. Mrs. Nkechi Mobo told the court that on the 16th of June 2021, her security told her that a body was found in the apartment and she reported to the Maroko police station. Counsel to the first defendant, Onwuka Ebu, requested for time to examine documents received on the 9th of November. The case was adjourned till November 15th as the second and third defense counsel had no need for cross-examination as their clients were not mentioned in the matter. In Lagos, Amaka O, NTA News.
it's now time for another break. Network News will continue shortly.
We're back in Abuja now, and Benny Adams has business news. Benny?
Thank you, Cyril, and welcome to Business. As the world becomes more digital, the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency, SMEDEN, is keeping up to speed with global digital platforms, and to this end, the agency has entered a strategic partnership to launch a digital platform called iMSME. The portal will provide quick access to funds and markets.
Platform to enhance their business
to add value to their production and also use the technology comprehensively.
It will enable them access loans. It will enable them transfer funds from within the portal. It will enable them sell their goods and services and onboard customers.
Leveraging on Nigeria's natural resources and population, in addition to openness in the conduct of government business, has been described as ways of enhancing this country's socio-economic well-being. These are thoughts of stakeholders expressed at the Economic Summit with the theme, Local Government System Resilience for Sustainable Development in Abuja.
The challenges of poverty in Nigeria needs an objective and collective approach.
For credit access to individual, have an opportunity to have a microfinance bank, national microfinance bank, and any other investment that will affect the life of the rural people. The issue of poverty will be dealt with.
And the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, Opec, has revised the 2021 world oil demand forecast downwards to 5.7 million barrels per day. OPEC made this known in its oil market report for November 2021, which revised lower by around 0.16 million barrels per day, compared to last month's assessment to stand at 5.7 million barrels per day. Revisions were mainly to account for slower than anticipated demand from China and India in the third quarter of 2021. The report added that world total demand in 2022 is now estimated to reach 100.6 million barrels per day, around 0.5 million barrels per day above 2019 levels. And on the capital market, investors lost 82.46 billion naira as all share index dips by 0.36% to close at 43,549.28 basis points, with market capitalization at 22.7 trillion naira. 161.3 million shares valued at 2.1 billion naira exchanged hands in 3,574 deals. Market breadth closed negative as Unity Bank led 10 gainers as against 18 losers, topped by Cornerstone. FBNH, Transcap and Zenith Bank were the most active to boost market turnover. That is business news. Network news continues in Kaduna with Suleiman Abdullahi Rigachukwu. Suleiman.
Good evening and welcome to Kaduna. Minister of Defense Major General Bashir Salih Magashi has tasked military combatants on the need for inter-corps and interagency collaboration in the ongoing fight against terrorism and other forms of criminality across the country. He gave the charge at the 2021 Infantry Annual Leadership Lecture and Biennial Reunion at the Infantry Corps Center, Jaji. A convergence of heroes of the Infantry Corps with mix of founding fathers, past and present infantry chiefs of army staff, including former head of state General Abdisalami Abubakar, represented by Major General Said Oba. They are here to discuss and explore new methodology of positioning the Nigerian Army Infantry Corps to win all land battles in joint operational environments.
I am confident that these internal security operations will complement Operation Hadirin Daji and the Haden Kai, formerly known as Operation Dole, in the northeast and northwest.
Former Chief of the Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, delivered the biennial reunion lecture titled The Nigerian Army Infantry Corps in Perspective, My Command, Style and Experience.
Leadership entails understanding, analyzing, predicting, controlling human behavior. As leader, you must be on the forefront and you must be ahead.
The three-day biennial lecture will feature other engagements at the home of Infantry Jaji Military Cantonment. Concerted effort by governments, parents, and other stakeholders in the area of girl-child education and women's rights have been identified as key to bringing an end to the daunting challenges bedeviling the women folk. This was the message by discussants during the first meeting of women under the umbrella of Jagora Mata Matasan Arewa in Kanu. Yahanasu Hassan Barrow has details.
Records by the United Nations Children Funds reveals that West African countries account for 45% of all out-of-school children the world over. with the girl child having the larger share in Nigeria, particularly the north. A lot of interventions from donor agencies and government have increased the number of school enrollment and retention. There is still some gap owing to the cultural and religious beliefs. This gathering of women from the northwest to cross-fertilize ideas that will aid in addressing the perennial problems affecting the girl child and women in the north.
This is to see how we can intervene in the crisis in northern Nigeria.
Ladi Shakbu traveled a number of kilometers to contribute her quota.
It's not the government that can do it alone. Everybody has a role to play.
Kano State Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje said his administration will continue to accord priority in improving the girl child and women.
Women are now auto mechanic in town. Whatever a man can do, a woman can do better.
With sharing of ideas by people like Ladi, if properly put into practice, experts believe there will be prospects at the end of the day. In Kano, Yahana Hassan Baro.
In Abuja after the break.
All right, now, more news now. Nigeria has not conducted an agricultural census for almost 30 years. And now the federal government is set to begin a new census. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, who launched the takeoff of the census to be carried out by the National Bureau of Statistics, said it is crucial for improving on the delivery of statistical information needed for evidence-based planning, policy formulation and implementation. Muplang Dako reports.
Agriculture represents about 24% of the nation's economy, providing employment for over 50% of Nigerians. Given the importance of the sector, the National Bureau of Statistics is set to conduct a national agricultural sample census aimed at providing basic data on the structure of the agricultural sector.
A regular agricultural census is a critical component of national statistics systems, especially in a country like Nigeria that is dependent on agriculture and with so much of the labor force is involved in agriculture.
This administration will continue to invest heavily in all aspects of the agricultural value chain, taking advantage of all available resources. These aspirations cannot be achieved without the use of adequate and reliable statistics.
This sensitization workshop seeks to serve as a springboard for national awareness on the forthcoming census and to accord it the desired cooperation.
The National Agricultural Sample Census is designed to produce vital primary data on the structural composition and the operations of the sector.
The World Bank and the Food and Agriculture Organization are providing technical support for the census. They say it will increase output on the agri value chain to meet the demand for food, employment, and export earnings. In Abuja, Muplang Dakok, NTA News.
Sports now, and Al-Shabaab FC striker Igalu returns to the Super Eagles. He arrives in camp in Morocco. Badia Delay has more.
Many thanks, Cyril. The number of players in Super Eagles camp has increased to 23 following Odion Igalu's arrival in Tangier, Morocco on Thursday afternoon. The Al-Shabaab of Saudi Arabia forward, who is returning to the team for the first time since he announced his retirement from international football more than 2 years ago, says he's happy to be back. The Super Eagles will take on the Lone Star in a match-day 5 encounter at the Grand Stade Tangier on Saturday. The three-time African champions will then host the Blue Sharks of Cape Verde in their final group game next week Tuesday at the Teslim Balogun Stadium, Lagos. Let's talk women's football now, as Group B of the ongoing CAF Women's Champions League enters its last day on Friday. Nigeria's Rivers Angels meet Kenya's Vihiga Queens at the June the 30th Stadium, hoping to bounce back from back-to-back defeats. Vihiga Queens need a win to advance to the semi-finals, while Rivers Angels have the slimmest of chances to advance based on the outcome of the other group game between Mamelodi Sundowns and Asfar. And finally, Steven Gerrard says is extremely proud after being appointed the new Aston Villa head coach on a 3.5-year deal. The former Liverpool midfielder left his role at Rangers to replace Dean Smith, who was sacked last weekend after a run of 5 successive defeats. Villa sits 16th in the Premier League table, 2 points above the relegation zone after 11 games. Gerrard's first match in charge is set to be the Premier League encounter against Brighton on November the 20th. That does it on sports. It's back to Cyril.
Thank you, buddy. The family of late Beatrice Olajumoke Oladunjoyi, née Aina, announces the death of their wife, mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. Aged 92, she died on Monday, the 20th of September, and she will be buried on Friday, the 12th of November in Lagos. And that concludes Network News Tonight. Thanks for watching, but also keep standing with the NTA against rape and rapists. I'm Cyril Stover. Good night.